This is perfect for the Edmonton Oilers, as one thing has connected them in all five of their wins this season, and it may benefit them tonight as they take on the Calgary Flames in the historic Battle of Alberta. But before we get into all the fancy game previews and all that jazz, make sure to subscribe here to Oilers Digest. If you're not part of that 16.5% that are subscribed, you're missing out on a lot of Oiler content. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us along the ride here as we get into the second month of the Oilers season. But round two, yes, the Oilers do cap off a short road trip, and they are close to home as they take on the Calgary Flames in the Battle of Alberta. But after that phenomenal win against the Nashville Predators on Thursday night, Kris Knoblauch had a few things to say about his team. He said we were finishing on our opportunities, which is something we haven't been able to do earlier this year. The team needed to raise its game, even more so with the game's best player out with an ankle injury, and it found a way. Here's a time where we subtracted and everyone raised the game. Obviously, we don't want to play without Connor, but everyone was just a bit better. And I mean, can't say any better myself. I mean, even without your captain, your star player, the Oilers roll into Nashville and they played like, Connor McDavid, was on the ice like he wasn't even there, right? So the Oilers, phenomenal performance in Nashville, but they do take on the Calgary Flames at the Scotiabank Saddle Dome tonight. And if the Oilers, want to go on a win streak, the Oilers will need another dose of the same in Calgary if they plan on turning Thursday's win into anything monumental, whether it was Leon Draisaitl's first line with Vasily Podkolzin and Victor Arvidsson, all the way down to the fourth line with Draisaitl and Noah Philp making his NHL debut and even getting a point in the process. And Corey Perry, Edmonton was getting productive minutes from throughout the lineup, and I suspect they'll need a repeat performance at the Saddle Dome. The Flames have been fighting above their weight class all season relative to expectations, making them a dangerous out if you are not ready to go. And the Flames, to start off the year, rattle off that 3-game win streak. One of those wins was, of course, the Edmonton Oilers, but we'll get into them later. They have cooled off, no pun intended, but Bob Stauffer here with the Oilers' expected lineup in Calgary. No changes at all except for the change in net with Stuart Skinner, as Calvin Pickard is expected to get the game against the New Jersey Devils tomorrow night. But the first line, Vasily Podkolzin, Leon Draisaitl, Victor Arvidsson, Jeff Skinner, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman, Matisse Janmark, Adam Henrique, and Connor Brown. Out of all four lines, the third line really needs to pick up its game. But lastly here, the fourth line, Draisaitl, Noah Philp, and Corey Perry, and on the back end, Matisse Ekholm and Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse, and Travis Dermott, and lastly here, Brett Kulak in Ty Emberson. But just to, highlight Draisaitl. I mean, it's been phenomenal for him to get back to where he is in Edmonton. He says, I've worked really hard the last few years to get to this point. I've overcome some tough injuries like neck surgery and thought my days in the NHL might be done after that. I know when the Oilers did pick him up last summer, I wasn't expecting him to play in Edmonton at all, but, through a whole bunch of these circumstances, I'm very excited to see him back in an Oilers jersey. And he even, had a very, very decent game on Thursday night alongside with Noah Philp and Corey Perry. I mean, if there's any two wingers to put Noah Philp, between those, not too shabby. And the Oilers have a connecting theme through all of their 5 wins, a fight. Troy Stecher dropped gloves with Sean Couturier in Edmonton's first win of the season against the Philadelphia Flyers, and Darnell Nurse scrapped with Michael McCarron in their next win over the Nashville Predators. Darnell Nurse fought again against Marcus Patterson over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, there's that dirty hit on Victor Arvidsson that Marcus Patterson laid on him, and Darnell Nurse stood up for him. Corey Perry also stood up for a hard hit on Derek Ryan against the Detroit Red Wings. And lastly here, I mean, the most memorable fight of the Oilers season thus far, Vasily Podkolzin two-punched Jeremy Lauzon in the team's most recent win over Nashville. So a bunch of players stepping up for their teammates, which is something that you love to see. A lot of pundits were criticizing the Oilers. They weren't, they were soft, they were slow, they weren't physical, but I mean, five fights, 5 wins, you do the math. And Kris Knoblauch was asked about it, and he says sometimes some of those games, I do think that it picked up our team. When he was asked about if the Oilers were getting a spark from fighting, I believe the Philadelphia game was one of them, just turning points to give our guys a little more momentum, and that could be beneficial heading into tonight's Battle of Alberta. I know, having to fight to get a win, that's not sustainable throughout the course of a season, especially when you want to think about the health of players. But I mean, I love the narrative. The Oilers, a physical team, compared to recent years when, only one or two guys were willing to step up to the plate to fight. But I mean, 5 different fighters, tremendous work by the Edmonton Oilers, and hopefully they carry that into tonight's game against the opposition Calgary Flames. Yes, with the opposition observation. Yes, I know we've already seen the Calgary Flames once so far this season, but they're currently sitting 4th in the Pacific Division, 6 wins, 4 losses, 1 overtime loss, for a total of 13 points, and they are 2 points up on the Edmonton Oilers. And after beating the Edmonton Oilers 4-1 a couple Sundays ago, they started to cool off. They beat Chicago in their next game, lost to Seattle, won against Pittsburgh, but lost 4 games in a row against Carolina, Winnipeg, Vegas, and Utah. But they did pick up where they left off in the middle of October with a 3-0 shutout against the New Jersey Devils. And just taking a look at their lineup here, a lot of familiar faces and names to Oiler fans alike: Connor McDavid, Nazem Kadri, Martin Pospisil, Blake Coleman, Michael Backlund, who just had his 1,000th game against the New Jersey Devils. I mean, I got to give credit where credit is due, all 1,000 with the Calgary Flames. Matthew Coronado on the second line, Jonathan Huberdeau, Yegor Sharangovich, and Anthony Mantha on the third line. Meanwhile, on the fourth line, Ryan Lomberg, Kevin Rooney, and Andrei Kuzmenko. So, a very volatile lineup for the Calgary Flames, and the Oilers do have to start the game on time tonight. This is not a team that you can take lightly right off the draw. And on the back end here, a very big defensive core for the Calgary Flames here: Kevin Ball, Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar, Danilo Miromanov, and then Tyson Barrie. In disgusting colors that he's wearing in Calgary now, former Oiler, and Braden Pahal makes up your decor. And then Dan Vladar between the pipes for the Calgary Flames against the Edmonton Oilers, and he is a bit of an Oiler killer over the past couple years, putting up a career .926 save percentage and a 2.26 goals against average. And folks, soak it in while you can, because tonight is the last Battle of Alberta before March 29th. Yes, November to March. That is the way the NHL made their schedule this year, because sometimes your divisional opponents, you only see some 3 times, and then the others, you see them, the minimum of 4 times. But both teams could look significantly different before March, so tonight could be the last game these two teams see each other before. Again, that's after the trade deadline, so both teams could be significantly different. The Flames might not be sellers by the time the trade deadline hits if they keep this momentum up, and meanwhile the Oilers, it could go one way or the other, especially if Stuart Skinner does not get back to his familiar form in net. I'm excited for tonight's game. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the lineup tonight, and what you think about the Oilers sustainable fighting. Do you think it's sustainable? Are you excited? Do you hate fighting? Let me know down in the comments. Have yourselves a fantastic night. Enjoy the game. Let's go Oilers.